Across vast deserts, dense forests, and hidden villages, unseen rules govern everyday life. Rules so powerful that breaking them can mean shame, exile, or even death. These are not written laws, nor decrees from kings, but ancient taboos etched deep into the spirit of African tribes. Some forbid the touch of sacred animals, others restrict who can marry whom, and some even declare certain words, names, or foods forbidden forever. To outsiders, these taboos can feel peculiar, bewildering even. Imagine being born into a world where you could never taste a certain fruit, never speak the name of a relative, or never step into a sacred grove. For those within, these rules are not strange restrictions, but invisible shields, protecting both the living and the dead. Each taboo has its roots in meaning, sometimes spiritual, sometimes ecological, and sometimes social. They can preserve scarce resources, keep peace between clans, or guard against what is believed to be supernatural wrath. But whether the reason is practical or mystical, the result is the same. These taboos hold entire communities together, shaping what people eat, how they behave, and even what they believe about life and death itself. What makes them fascinating is not only their variety, but their resilience. Even in a world rushing toward modernity, taboos survive in whispers, in rituals, and in the unspoken rules that still govern tribal life. From the Maasai Plains to Yoruba villages, from the Himba deserts to the Dogon cliffs, these hidden laws continue to guide entire cultures in ways outsiders rarely see. And when a taboo is broken, the consequences can be chilling. Sometimes it means exile, banishment from the only community a person has ever known. Sometimes it means shame that echoes for generations. And in the most feared cases, it is believed to unleash curses, illnesses, or disasters on entire families. These aren't just personal rules, they are cosmic ones, connecting the living to ancestors and spirits beyond the human world. In this journey, we'll step into that world, unveiling food forbidden by custom, animals that cannot be touched, rituals that silence the names of the dead, and peculiar rules that still hold sway over entire tribes today. By the end, you'll see how these peculiar taboos are far more than strange customs. They are keys to understanding how communities endure, protect their environment, and define the very meaning of belonging. Taboos are often mistaken for nothing more than superstition, but within African societies, they form the very architecture of life. They are the unwritten rules that dictate not only how one behaves, but also how one survives. Every act, eating, speaking, marrying, mourning, can be bound by these invisible boundaries. The roots of taboos stretch far back into Africa's oral traditions, where ancestors were seen not as figures of the past, but as living guardians of the present. To break a taboo was to offend not only one's community but also the ancestors watching over it. In this way, taboos became both spiritual and social contracts, ensuring order in a world where harmony with the unseen was as vital as harmony among the living. Yet the origins of taboos are not always spiritual. Many are ecological, clever codes of conservation disguised as sacred law. A tribe might declare a species of fish forbidden, not because the fish is unclean, but because overfishing would destroy their food supply. A forest might be declared sacred, its trees untouchable, ensuring that the ecosystem survives for generations. To the outside eye, it may look like mysticism, but to the people within, it is survival cloaked in reverence. Taboos also weave social order. They can determine who marries whom, who may share food, who must not even shake hands. In a single village, a simple act, like greeting the wrong person the wrong way, might be forbidden, carrying consequences that go far beyond embarrassment. By limiting certain interactions, taboos create invisible lines between clans, preventing conflict and preserving identities that have endured for centuries. But perhaps the most remarkable feature of taboos is how they turn ordinary acts into matters of cosmic importance. Eating a meal is no longer just nourishment. It becomes a ritual with consequences that ripple across family and community. Words are no longer just sounds. They become sacred, guarded, or silenced. And in this transformation, the ordinary world is lifted into the realm of the extraordinary. One striking example comes from the Shona people of Zimbabwe. For generations, they believed it was forbidden for a child to whistle at night. To break this rule was said to summon spirits, bringing misfortune into the household. At first glance, this might seem like a harmless superstition, but beneath it lies a deeper purpose. Keeping children from wandering out at night, where wild animals and dangers awaited. What looks like mysticism is often wisdom, practical rules dressed in sacred clothing. Among the Yoruba of Nigeria, there are taboos surrounding names. Some names cannot be spoken aloud outside of ritual contexts, as they are believed to carry power that could invite misfortune if uttered carelessly. This transforms something as simple as language into a tool of spiritual balance. In Madagascar, the Malagasy people follow a wide system of fedi, taboos that govern everything from foods to gestures. One such rule forbids pointing at a tomb with an outstretched finger, a gesture thought to disturb ancestral spirits. While outsiders may see this as overly strict, for locals it reinforces respect for the dead and the unbroken bond between the living and their ancestors. African taboos, then, are far more than peculiar customs. They are codes of meaning that link the physical world with the spiritual, the personal with the communal, the human with the natural. They blur the lines between what is sacred and what is practical, binding entire societies in shared understanding. And as we'll see, these meanings take on even stranger forms when they dictate something as essential as what you can and cannot eat. Food is life, but in Africa, food can also be forbidden. Across the continent, what you eat is often more than personal choice. It is a reflection of belief, identity, and respect for ancestral law. A single forbidden dish can carry the weight of centuries, its absence at the table speaking louder than its taste ever could. For many tribes, food taboos are closely tied to purity. Certain meats are avoided because they are thought to bring spiritual pollution. Among the Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania, for instance, fish is considered unfit for warriors. To eat it would not only weaken one's body but also dishonor one's role as a protector of the tribe. Meanwhile, some groups believe that consuming particular animals blurs the line between the human and the spiritual, drawing dangerous forces into one's life. Pregnant women are often subject to the strictest food taboos. In parts of West Africa, expectant mothers are forbidden from eating snails. The belief is that doing so would make the unborn child slow in life, cursed to crawl instead of walk quickly toward success. In other regions, eggs are avoided for fear that a child might grow up to be a thief. Always craving, always taking. Whether symbolic or protective, these rules shape the very diets of mothers and the destinies of children yet to be born. Other food taboos emerge from survival. In the dry Sahel, for example, certain tribes forbid the eating of young cattle. It is not because the animal lacks value, but because preserving the herd ensures the community's future. By wrapping this ecological necessity in the sacred language of taboo, the rule becomes unbreakable, guarded by fear of spiritual consequence rather than simple logic. Some taboos mark identity itself. The Igbo of Nigeria, for example, traditionally avoided eating python, a creature regarded as a spiritual ancestor. Killing or eating one was unthinkable, and if a python died naturally, it would be given a burial with rites as if it were human. Here, the taboo elevates an animal to kinship, forever shaping how the tribe sees its relationship to the natural world. In Ghana, certain tribes forbid the eating of bushmeat, such as monkeys, believing that consuming them will bring madness or invite spiritual retribution. This not only protects species that might otherwise be overhunted, but also reinforces the boundary between humans and creatures seen as too close to human likeness. And then there are taboos that shift with the seasons. Among certain fishing communities, entire rivers can become off-limits during spawning times, with myths of river gods punishing violators. While framed in spiritual terms, the effect is practical. It prevents overfishing and guarantees abundance for years to come. Even today, outsiders who enter tribal communities can cause shock if they unknowingly break these food laws. A traveler offering the wrong kind of meat at a feast may be politely refused, or, in more traditional settings, considered disrespectful to ancestors. The fear of invisible consequences remains strong, even as modern life creeps closer to traditional boundaries. Through these food restrictions, we see a deeper truth. Every bite carries meaning. Food becomes more than sustenance. It becomes destiny, morality, identity, and survival wrapped in ritual. What seems peculiar to outsiders is, in reality, a carefully crafted system of wisdom hidden in tradition. But food taboos are only one piece of this puzzle. Beyond the kitchen and the table lies another set of invisible rules, rules that guard the very landscapes tribes live in. Forests, rivers, and even entire species are placed under protection through the power of taboo. And it is there, in the natural world, that the most dramatic prohibitions begin. In Africa, the natural world is never just background scenery. It is alive with spirits, ancestors, and invisible forces. For many tribes, animals and landscapes are bound by sacred prohibitions. To harm them, to eat them, or even to step into certain places at the wrong time is to court disaster. These are the taboos that protect nature itself, weaving survival into spiritual law. Take the crocodile, for instance. Among some tribes along the Nile and in West Africa, the crocodile is seen not as a beast to be feared, but as a sacred messenger of the river spirits. To kill one is unthinkable, believed to unleash curses upon the hunter and their entire clan. In certain villages of Ghana, crocodiles live freely in ponds beside human settlements, untouched and unharmed. Locals say these creatures embody ancestors, silently watching over the living. The leopard, too, carries deep symbolic weight. Among the Zulu, it is forbidden for ordinary people to kill or wear the skin of a leopard. That honor belongs only to chiefs and kings who use leopard skins in ceremonies as symbols of power. For everyone else, touching the animal is taboo. Through this rule, the leopard is elevated to royal status, its survival safeguarded by fear and respect. Other animals are given similar reverence. Among the Dogon of Mali, the fox is believed to possess mystical powers of divination. Harming one is forbidden, for it is said to disrupt the balance between humans and the spirit world. By protecting the fox, the taboo preserves both a species and a spiritual bond woven into daily life. Taboos do not end with animals, they extend to the very landscapes people inhabit. Sacred forests are among the most striking examples. Across West and Central Africa, patches of dense woodland are declared off-limits, places where spirits dwell, and humans must tread lightly. Cutting trees, hunting, or even speaking too loudly in these forests can be forbidden. On the surface, these rules are spiritual, but in practice, they conserve biodiversity, ensuring sacred groves remain untouched for centuries while surrounding areas are cleared. Rivers and lakes also carry prohibitions. Among the Luo people of Kenya, fishing in Lake Victoria is traditionally governed by spiritual rules. Certain spots are forbidden, believed to be the dwelling places of water spirits. Breaking these restrictions risks storms, accidents, or poor catches. Yet beneath the fear lies ecological wisdom. Sacred zones allow fish stocks to replenish, ensuring survival for generations of fishermen. Mountains, too, can become sacred. In Tanzania, Mount Kilimanjaro's slopes are wrapped in taboos. For the Chaga people, certain rituals must be performed before venturing into specific areas, and careless trespassing is believed to anger spirits that dwell in the highlands. These prohibitions ensure that fragile mountain ecosystems remain respected, preserved under the cloak of the sacred. What is striking is how these rules echo across cultures. Whether it is a river in East Africa, a forest in the Congo, or a desert rock in Namibia, taboos transform the landscape into something alive, sacred, and untouchable. The invisible boundaries they create act as natural guardians, protecting species and ecosystems long before the idea of conservation ever existed. To the outsider, it might seem strange that a river or animal is declared off-limits. But for those within the tradition, these taboos are lifelines, ensuring balance between people and the natural world. In their silence, crocodiles survive. In their shadows, sacred groves flourish. And in their myths, mountains and rivers remain untamed and respected. Yet while nature taboos protect the earth, there are others that govern human relationships themselves, dictating how people may touch, speak, marry, and honor one another. And in these human-centered rules, we encounter some of the most peculiar restrictions of all. Not all taboos are tied to food or nature. Some of the most powerful and peculiar govern how people relate to one another. They are the invisible walls that define family, marriage, respect, and social order. To break them is not only to defy tradition, but to threaten the delicate web that holds a community together. Marriage is perhaps the most heavily guarded domain of taboo. Across much of Africa, clans are more than family lines, they are spiritual identities. Among the Ashanti of Ghana, for instance, marriage within the same clan is strictly forbidden. It is considered incest, even if no blood relation exists, for clans share a spiritual bond deeper than biology. A man and woman might fall in love, but if their clans match, their union is taboo, punishable by shame or banishment. Similar restrictions appear across other societies. In some parts of East Africa, marriages between people of the same totem, say the same animal spirit symbol, are prohibited. To do so is thought to anger ancestors who may curse the couple's children. In this way, taboos enforce social boundaries, keeping bloodlines and spiritual identities distinct. But taboos extend far beyond marriage. They dictate how one may touch or even greet another person. Among the Shona of Zimbabwe, it is taboo for a younger person to greet an elder with the left hand. The left hand is considered unclean, and such a greeting is a grave sign of disrespect. In some tribes, physical contact between in-laws is forbidden altogether. A son-in-law may not directly address or even look his mother-in-law in the eye, creating a buffer of formality that preserves respect within the household. Chiefs and rulers are especially protected by taboos. Among the Baganda of Uganda, the Kabaka, the king, was surrounded by an aura of sacred restrictions. Certain words could not be spoken in his presence, and even his physical body was shielded by layers of prohibition. To touch the king without permission was to invite disaster, believed to anger not only the ruler, but also the spirits that legitimized his reign. Even seemingly simple acts can become charged with meaning. Among the Himba of Namibia, a woman may not show her uncovered hair in public, for it is tied to modesty and respect. To break this taboo is to dishonor herself and her community. Among the Zulu, sitting in the wrong position before an elder, legs stretched forward instead of tucked respectfully, is enough to be scolded or punished. These rules might seem small, but they ripple across daily life. They create invisible boundaries that prevent conflict, maintain respect, and preserve hierarchy. To outsiders, it can seem peculiar that something as minor as a handshake or a glance is forbidden. Yet for those who live within these systems, the rules are essential. They keep peace in spaces where harmony is fragile, and when broken, the consequences can be severe. A marriage across clans might split families, a careless gesture might cause public humiliation, and a violation of respect toward a leader might, in extreme cases, be seen as rebellion, punishable by exile or worse. Social taboos reveal that in many African societies, respect is not optional, it is law. Every greeting, every gesture, every interaction carries weight. They transform ordinary relationships into sacred responsibilities, binding individuals to their communities in ways outsiders often struggle to understand. But perhaps no taboos are more striking than those surrounding death. For in the passage from life to the afterlife, the rules grow even stricter, the boundaries even sharper. And here, we encounter prohibitions that can silence names, reshape rituals, and govern how entire villages mourn their dead. Death is never just an ending, it is a passage. And in Africa, this passage is marked by taboos that ensure the living remain safe, the dead are honored, and the spirits are properly guided to the next world. Nowhere are taboos more powerful or more peculiar than in rituals of death. In many tribes, the body of the deceased is considered dangerous, not in a physical sense, but spiritually. Among the Luo of Kenya, only certain relatives may touch the corpse. To others, even accidental contact is forbidden, believed to bring misfortune or illness. This division creates a line between those chosen to guide the dead and those who must remain untouched by death's shadow. Purity is central to these taboos. The Igbo of Nigeria, for example, treat death as a form of pollution. After a funeral, mourners must go through cleansing rituals, sometimes washing in rivers, sometimes burning herbs to remove the contamination of death. To ignore this step is taboo, thought to attract restless spirits who might linger among the living. Some taboos govern mourning itself. Among the Xhosa of South Africa, widows traditionally wear black garments for a set mourning period, during which certain social freedoms are restricted. Breaking this taboo, laughing too loudly, attending celebrations, or remarrying too soon, is believed to dishonor the dead. In this way, mourning becomes not only personal grief, but a public ritual, bound by invisible law. One of the most striking taboos concerns names. Across various African societies, speaking the name of the dead is forbidden. In Madagascar, for instance, names of the deceased may not be uttered aloud for fear of disturbing their journey to the ancestral world. Among the San of southern Africa, the name of the dead is avoided entirely, replaced with nicknames or metaphors. To say the name directly is to call the spirit back, trapping it between worlds. Even the manner of burial is surrounded by prohibitions. Among the Dogon of Mali, funerals are complex ceremonies where taboos dictate who may drum, who may dance, and who may carry the body. If a rule is broken, it is believed the soul cannot find peace, lingering to haunt the living. But perhaps the most peculiar are the taboos around sudden or bad deaths. In some traditions, those who die violently or unnaturally cannot be buried in the same way as others. Their graves may be placed outside the village, and certain rituals are forbidden, for fear that their spirits will bring harm if treated like the rest. These rules reflect a deep belief that not all deaths are equal, and not all spirits can be approached in the same way. To outsiders, these customs may appear rigid or even fearful. Yet within the culture, they offer structure in the face of life's greatest mystery. They provide reassurance that the dead are cared for, that the living are protected, and that the invisible line between this world and the next is not crossed carelessly. Through these taboos, death becomes more than loss. It becomes transformation, guarded by rules that preserve dignity, balance, and order. And just as taboos shape death, they also shape life in peculiar ways. From prohibitions on whistling to strange bans on foods and words, some of Africa's most unusual rules emerge in daily life. Rules that are as fascinating as they are mysterious. To see them, we must look at specific tribes and their peculiar taboos. Every taboo carries weight, but some are so peculiar they seem almost unbelievable, until you step into the world where they make perfect sense. Across Africa, each tribe has its own rules that outsiders might call strange, yet within the culture, they are threads of identity and survival. Among the Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania, warriors are bound by strict dietary taboos. They may drink milk and blood, but eating fish is unthinkable. To the Maasai, fish belong to the river world, and consuming them would weaken a warrior's strength and courage. For outsiders, refusing a meal of fish might seem like stubbornness. But for the Maasai, it is a sacred protection of their warrior identity. The Yoruba of Nigeria hold taboos that reach into language itself. Certain words, especially those tied to sacred rituals, cannot be spoken outside their proper context. Even a casual slip of the tongue can be seen as dangerous, for words are believed to summon power. This turns ordinary speech into a sacred act, reminding every Yoruba speaker that language is not just communication, it is creation itself. Further south, the Himba of Namibia are known for their striking red ochre skin coverings, but behind the beauty lies taboo. For Himba women, washing with water is forbidden. Instead, they cleanse themselves with smoke baths made from aromatic herbs. To break this rule is to defy tradition, but more than that, it is to reject identity. The taboo is not just about hygiene, it is about preserving culture against the erosion of modern influence. The Zulu of South Africa hold peculiar prohibitions around kingship. The monarch may not eat in public. Meals are private, hidden, for eating is seen as a vulnerable act. To expose it would diminish the aura of power that surrounds the king. To outsiders, this secrecy may seem unnecessary, but for the Zulu, it preserves the sacred distance between ruler and subject, ensuring the king remains larger than life. The Dogon of Mali provide some of the most fascinating taboos of all. Known for their mysterious star knowledge and elaborate rituals, the Dogon hold strict rules around their sacred masks. These masks, used in funerals and ceremonies, may not be worn outside their proper context. To mishandle or misuse one is taboo, believed to unleash spiritual imbalance not only on the individual but on the entire community. Through these restrictions, art and religion merge, reminding everyone that even an object can carry the weight of cosmic order. Each of these examples may appear strange at first. A warrior who refuses fish, a woman forbidden from touching water, a king who hides his meals, a mask that can never be casually worn. Yet behind every rule lies a deeper truth. Taboos are not random, they are codes of survival, identity, and belief. And as we weave these peculiar stories together, one pattern becomes clear. What seems unusual to the outside eye often carries wisdom hidden in tradition. It is here in these case studies that we see the real genius of taboo, its ability to transform the ordinary into the sacred. But the journey does not end with peculiar stories. To truly understand, we must step back and see the bigger picture. How these taboos across tribes and generations shape not only individuals, but entire cultures. And in that reflection lies our conclusion. From food that may never be eaten, to animals that must never be touched, from words that must never be spoken to names of the dead that vanish into silence, Africa's taboos reveal a world where every action carries meaning. They are not random restrictions. They are ancient codes binding the living to the spiritual, the human to the natural, and the community to its ancestors. Across this journey, we've seen how taboos shape life in every corner of society. They protect food sources in times of scarcity. They preserve forests, rivers, and sacred landscapes long before conservation had a name. They guard respect between generations, ensuring harmony where conflict might otherwise erupt. And they sanctify the passage of death, guiding souls safely while shielding the living from unseen danger. What might seem peculiar to outsiders is in truth a system of wisdom dressed in mystery. A warrior refusing fish is protecting his identity. A woman avoiding water is preserving her culture. A king hiding his meals is maintaining sacred power. And a family whispering nicknames for their dead is ensuring peace between this world and the next. The beauty of taboos is not in their strangeness, but in their purpose. They remind us that every society, no matter how distant, creates rules that transform the ordinary into the sacred. To eat, to speak, to touch, to mourn, these are universal acts, yet through taboos, they become rituals of survival and identity. And this is where the story of Africa's taboos connects to all of us. For while the details may differ, every culture on Earth has its own invisible boundaries. We too have foods we refuse, words we avoid, acts we consider forbidden. In recognizing Africa's peculiar taboos, we glimpse a mirror of our own humanity, our shared need to create order, meaning, and respect through rules that transcend logic. So the next time you encounter a custom that feels strange, remember, behind every taboo lies a story. Behind every story lies survival, and behind survival lies truth. If you've enjoyed uncovering these hidden worlds of belief and survival, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more journeys into the extraordinary. Because taboos may divide cultures, but they also unite us in our shared search for meaning, and that is a story worth telling.